Okay, so we'll see how all of this works, because like as people log in, they'll show up here, and then I can ask somebody. See, there we go. Kevin Kent, Randy Wright. Hey guys, I need to ask a question. Can you hear me? And is that volume set correctly? Carolyn, Jerry. If anybody can tell me whether or not they can hear me.
Oh, there you go. Hello.
Hey Kevin, can you hear what I'm saying? Is this volume okay?
Yes. Oh.
Thank you. We work through everything except the sound. So go figure. So hey everybody, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm gonna give it one more minute. No, Jerry, I can't tell because I can't hear my own self. Actually, that sounded kind of funny. I can hear myself talking, but I can't hear through the thing. So I don't know. I'm tech savvy, not this person. So how you guys doing with all this chaos? All right, it is 6 p.m. So we're going to get started because I really want to honor the time constraints that we talked about. So welcome to the first ever Flashcard Friday. If you guys like this, we'll continue. We don't want to overload you. So if it's too much, if Sundays and Wednesdays, if that's all too much, just say so, and we won't do it. But I kind of want to take a little bit, and I had no clue that Pastor Chad was going to do that particular message on Wednesday. But I want to take that and take it just a little bit further. And we're going to be working from 3 books, part of which he talked about on Wednesday when he talked about the different Bibles. This is an NIV. So if you remember him talking, this is a mediated version. So it's not word for word, but it's not thought for thought. It kind of meets in the middle. And then this is my favorite book on the planet. This is a Greek Hebrew keyword study Bible. So this is going to be word for word. So the sentence structure is going to be a little unusual in this one. And then this is another great one because we're actually going to be working in the New Testament. This is a Greek English interlinear New Testament. So it's actually going to have both. So this is actually the section that we're going to be working on. Let me see if I can go closer a little bit. That's going to be like really confusing. But basically the way it works is right here you have the actual Greek wording, and then underneath is what the English word is. And then off here on the left, this is NRSV, which again is going to be mediated. So it's going to take this sentence structure and it's going to put it into an understandable form. So it's actually, if there was something in between word for word and mediated, that's what this particular one would be. So there's the passage that we're going to talk about. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as Peter's restoration, and some versions will actually say this is Jesus and Peter. But what I want to talk about, and it's something like, if you guys think about it, if you hear Pastor Chad do a message on a particular scripture verse, and then a couple weeks later you hear somebody like Pastor Ben or Pastor Greg from another church talk about that same verse, but they talk about it a little bit, they talk about it differently. That's what's really cool about the Bible, is there are layers to it, and there are so many different applications from a single verse, or in this case from a single section in it, that I find it's one of those things, it just gets my blood going because it is so cool. So what I'm going to do, because we are going to talk about some Greek words and stuff like that, as because I'm going to take this particular passage and I'm going to go 3 layers, and I'm going to show you 3 different layers of how to look at it. So typically, like if I were doing this at home, you'd see me flipping back and forth. But again, for the sake of time and to honor the commitment that we've asked from you guys, I've actually already done all of that, so I'm going to kind of work off of this. I would highly recommend anybody who wants to get involved in studying the Bible, you need that Greek Hebrew keyword Bible. Okay, Pastor Chad and I are book people. I like to have my fingers in pages. Some people aren't like that. You can get this kind of stuff on the internet. There's a really great resource. Part of it is free, and part of it you would have to pay for, but it's called eSword. So it's ESWORD, and it'll have different versions of the Bible that you can purchase, but it'll have commentaries, and it'll have the Greek and Hebrew translations in there for you, which is a lot of fun. So I'm just going to take a quick second here, and I'm going to read the verse, and then we're going to take it apart. So again, we're at John 21, and we're going to do verses 15 through 19. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said, "you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." And again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The 3rd time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a 3rd time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things, and you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." Now, the normal kind of standard takeaway that you get from that is that Jesus, basically, he reinstates Peter. He forgives him for the 3 times that Peter denied him. He forgives him those 3 times. That's a great takeaway. That's a phenomenal takeaway. But what's really cool is when you look at it in Greek, it actually goes one step further. And what happens is what I call Jesus kind of lowers the love bar for Peter. And in doing so, he lowers that love bar for you and I, which we're all Peters. We're all prone to stumble. So when you look at what Jesus said, when he says, "Do you love me?" he uses the word agapeo. Now that's a version of agape. That's a type of love. So that's an all-consuming love. If you look it up in that keyword study Bible, if you look it up in eSword, it'll give you that definition. It's that like massive love. The truthfully only Jesus can understand. But when Peter responds back to him, he uses phileo. Now, phileo is that's a brotherly love. So kind of, if you think about it, there are conditions attached to it. I love you when we agree. When we start to argue, maybe not so much. If you walk away from me, my love for you ends. That's phileo love. Okay? So then Jesus asks again, and again he uses agapeo. And Peter responds, phileo. He says, "Jesus, you know I love you like a brother." I don't have the capacity to love you unconditionally, to love you with a love that knows no bounds. I don't have that. So then the third time when Jesus says, do you love me? He uses the word phileo. And when he does, Peter's hurt at first because he knows he couldn't do this, but he could do this. And Jesus knew that. But he needed Peter to see, Peter, you have the capability to go here, but if right now, if this is all you've got, that's good enough for me. So then Peter responds back, phileo. Again, he says, yeah, I can love you that way. And right before this happened, Peter had gone fishing. He went back to what he knew because he thought his time as a disciple was over. So he went back to what he knew. From this point forward, you never read about Peter going fishing again. The second he understood this, he knew that the best he had was good enough for Jesus. Now, again, I want to honor you guys' time. So we're going to chew through the next one really quick. But it's kind of wild because, okay, we just talked about Jesus lowering the love bar for Peter. But there's something else in here, and I can't find a whole lot of commentary on it. But when you look at the different Greek words, you also see Peter's promotion in this. And it comes from the other part of what Jesus says in there. So after that first time when he asked Peter if he loves him, he says, feed my lambs. Okay? So now the word for feed, is basko. And and when you look up that definition, it means to provide for. And when you look up the word lamb, you're going to find arnion. And in this context, obviously you have lamb being an animal, but in this context, it's often used to refer to Jesus and his disciples. So if you think about it, Jesus told him to provide for his disciples. So if you remember earlier in John, Mary is told to tell the disciples and Peter. My personal opinion, I think Peter was set aside in there because he was about to be promoted. He's no longer going to be a disciple. He's no longer going to be the student. Because when you look at the next one, he says, tend my sheep. And the word tend here is poimeano. And poimeano, again, in this context, means to act as a shepherd. The word for shepherd is poimen. So basically, poimano is an extension of that word, and it means to act as a shepherd. And then if you look after that, he said he uses the word feed again, but he uses the word sheep for the last two. Okay, so if arnion is disciples, sheep is probaton, and probaton was followers of Christ. So Jesus is telling Peter, I want you to provide for my disciples. I want you to act as a shepherd to my sheep, to my followers, but I also want you to provide for my followers. So this is my personal opinion, but I think in this, Jesus says, you know what, Pete, you're no longer a team member. You're now the team captain. And you're going to take my people to the next level. Because just a few days after all of this happens, Peter preaches his first ever sermon, and 3,000 people are saved. 2 days later, he preaches again, and 5,000 more are saved. My personal opinion, want you guys to study this on your own. My personal opinion, 8,000 people were saved because of this. So again, this is just one additional way. If you guys like the Friday stuff, we'll keep going. That's entirely up to you guys. Again, we don't want to overload you. Get this book right here, or get eSword online. One or the other. It's phenomenal. It will help you go so deep in the Bible. And this, for all of you study geeks like me, this is just fun. So we'll put these up on Facebook a little bit later. For anybody who can't see, I'm not sure just how good this camera is. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Have a great rest of your night and have a phenomenal weekend. We'll see you Sunday online. One more week. You guys are great. Love you.